This is being recorded, so if you missed the first couple of minutes, you can watch the recording and then, file it away for next time. My name is Katrina Burka. I'm one of the educators here at Bywater Solutions, and we are so excited that you have joined us today. We know that 2405, what is this release? What are we even on? 2405 was a big jump because we went from 2305 to 2405. We did a double jump this year. So wanted to show you a few things that you may not have noticed in the upgrade. There was only so much that we could include in the What's New webinars that we previewed for you before this was live on your site. So we're excited to share with you the educators' favorite things about this current release. You'll notice Donna is not here with us. She is actually taking a vacation. So against my better judgment, I let the education team convince me to make a bad joke in Donna's honor. I know. Yeah, I was outvoted. So, why are frogs always so happy? Because they eat whatever is bugging them. Ba-dum, bum. I figured something that was related to bugs, as in those bugs from Bugzilla that we're going to be showing you today, would be an appropriate introduction to our agenda today. So I am going to go ahead and pass it off to Holly Mills, another one of our educators here at Bywater, and she's going to walk us through the first little bit of our agenda and of the things that we want to share.
Yeah, hi everybody. It took a sec to get promoted to a panelist, from being in the Zoom hinterlands. But anyway, yeah, we're excited to talk today about our favorites from 2405 and some things that you all have probably seen already and some things that might have not gotten the attention that we think they deserve. So I'll just jump into it. We're going to start talking about some exciting new things in the world of cataloging. To start with, there is now the ability to add a note pop-up on authority records for authority search results. That is from bug 35328, and Sarah is showing us what that looks like. So here is my nice note pop-up that I can read through. And yeah, H2 is enthusiastic. Love to see it. So there's an example of what this can look like here. A really nice helper when you're working with authorities. Moving along, there is also now the ability to add persistent selections and batch operations to your item search. So expanding the awesomeness of this already awesome and powerful collection management tool in item. So here, Sarah is adding a last checkout date before a certain time, and we're just going to do a very broad search here. So now we've got our search results. And so I can do batch operations. Now from these results, I've got my checkboxes that I can select, or I can select all visible rows. Again, here, this is just going to select the 20 rows that are shown if I select all visible rows. And I would need to use my show X number of entries where Sarah's cursor is there to expose more or all of my results if I want to select everything all at once. Okay, so we've got our selections, and now we can do some batch operations. So I can do a batch item modification or deletion. This is really awesome for batch updating shelving locations, for flagging all of these things as withdrawn, or, just being really get it done with my waiting project and just delete them directly from my item search. So Sarah's updating and giving all of these selected items a withdrawn status. She just goes down and saves that. And there we go. If you click on the back, it takes you into the tool that we're more familiar with from how we've all had to do batch operations in the past. But so that's what that looks like, doing batch operations from item search results. Love it. All right, and moving along into acquisitions, we've got a bunch of acquisition stuff for you today. So where we're starting is there is now the ability to look at the acquisition details tab in our holdings table. And from here, we can now see the acquisition status of the record. So here, Sarah's just highlighting, it's telling us this bib record has an acquisition status processing. So that can, and it's got my acquisition information here below. So that can also be really nice to help track as things are moving through that acquisitions process. Heather is putting some links in the chat for more information about that. That one is from bug 35994. All right, next we've got a new ability to, from our baskets, we can increase the quantity of any of our order lines now. So I go into modify order line and I can, let's see, yep, fill in my required fields. And I can go in and, oh, there we go. Yep, get our item type in there. And Sarah's just clicking add item, and that ups that quantity from 1 to 2, or you can add multiple items. So what you cannot yet do is decrease the quantity on an order line. So I can't go from 2 back down to 1 yet, but it's nice to be able to come in and increase that quantity without having to delete that order and create a whole new order line. Right. And if the additional items that you're adding, the additional copies of any particular order line have different information in the accounting details. So that would be if I'm going to purchase that second copy with from a different fund, or it's going to have a different discount on it, that will still need to be its own unique order line rather than increasing the quantity here. So if I'm increasing the quantity, I'm applying all of the same accounting information, purchasing from the same fund, et cetera, to that additional copy. So just a note on that. All right, next we've got bug 34300, and this adds a link to our basket that allows us to place a hold on any of our ordered items. So we've got a new column there for place hold, and I can just click that place hold link. It takes me into my familiar hold placing screen. I put in my patron information, place that hold. And now, if I come back to my basket, I don't see the hold there in my basket, but I can click on any of my titles and see the record and view the holds list for that title. All right. That's kind of a nice segue into the last piece of acquisition stuff that I'm going to talk about, which is suggestions. We've got some nice improvements for our purchase suggestions. So I can now place oops, sorry, I think I lost, Sarah and I lost pace with each other a little bit. I think you've gotten ahead of me. Okay. So this one is bug 27595, and we can place holds for patrons on accepted purchase suggestions. So we'll add a suggestion to our order here. So Sarah's going to add to the basket from a suggestion. And now we can select which suggestion we're adding there. Add our item details, any catalog details we need to add here. Add that item. And this is what we get for picking random funds. And so there I've added that item from the suggestion to my basket. And now I can go in and view that record. And that a hold was automatically placed for the patron who made that suggestion. So that uses a system preference. It's not, don't worry, that's not just going to start happening all over the place. That uses a system preference, which is place holds on orders from suggestions. So if this is something that you want to start using, you can go in and update that system preference to do, and then that hold will automatically be placed for the patron who placed the suggestion. All right, and that is the last thing I'm going to talk about in acquisitions. So now is a time where let's pause, and any questions, if you've got questions in chat, let's take those. Or if you have been keeping your questions to yourself because you want to share with the group, we can also open it up. You can unmute yourself and ask questions as well. Actually, I don't know if our participants have that ability. Nope, you never mind. We haven't granted you that.
But we do have a question.
Okay, yes. What do we got?
So this question is for purchase suggestions, automatic holds. What if the item is purchased a different way than through a basket, like for digital items, for example?
The action that triggers placing the hold for the patron is that adding it to the basket from the purchase suggestion. So if you are adding items to your catalog from any other means, the hold is not automatically going to get placed. It's that add to the basket from purchase suggestion that triggers placing the hold.
Hey, that's all of the questions right
That's
now.
all the questions? I can't believe
Mhm.
it. But I'm looking back through the chat. I love all the woohoo and amazing. Who said bazinga? Oh yeah, hi Carrie. Awesome. So it's great to see the love for the new stuff coming in. But yes, if you think of a question about any of this cataloging or acquisition stuff, and we've already moved on, that's okay. Go ahead and ask it. We're going to have more moments to pause and take questions. But if that's it for now, then I'm going to continue on with the exciting new things. So moving on, we're going to talk about a nice holds feature. So now there is a functionality for librarians to change holds from item level holds to record level holds. So Sarah's taking us into Nina B's hold on magical squares. And right now it's an item level hold, and you can just, that has become a drop down, and we can select next available. And then of course we're going to update the holds to save that. So this is now a bib level hold. I cannot revert that. So note that in that details column, next available, that's not a drop down anymore. That was a drop down when I had a specific item indicated. Now it's just next available. So we can't revert it, but we can go from item to bib level hold. And that was bug 31692. Heather's got it in the chat there. I see, Tony, how do you handle holds on a multi-volume set? Are you talking about specifically if we were moving from item level to bib level holds, or is that a more general question about multi-volume holds? Item to bib. I have not played with this with volume holds. Have any of our other educators jump in and help me out here? I've only looked at this. I haven't looked at this with records.
Yeah, we'd have to do
we can do
testing to
some
see how
testing.
that would work to go from an item group hold to a bib level hold.
Yeah.
But if you have item groups, I think that's probably what you're asking, Tony.
Yeah.
We'd have to test. So you can test on your side or we can test on ours, but once you do, let us know.
Good. I know I hate to open that can of worms, but that was a good stump and educator question. There's always more to learn. All right. That is the last bug that I'm going to talk about. Now I'm going to hand it over to Heba to take you through exciting circ stuff and public services and patrons enhancements. All right, Heba, it's all yours.
Yeah, so holds was our segue into circulation. So the first piece I want to talk about is some additional fields on our circulation matrix, which wasn't big enough already, right? But the biggest one that a lot of libraries are going to be celebrating, if Sarah, you want to click in to edit that resident rule, just so we can work with that and look only at that. There are some additional columns. The first one I'm going to look at, because holds was our segue. If you want to keep scrolling a little bit, we're going to talk about hold expiration, hold pickup period. So historically in Koha, you could set one amount of time that you patrons have to pick up your holds across your branches, across your systems, across all item types. And many libraries rightly found that very frustrating, especially our consortium partners. Now you have the ability, that system default still exists. Most of your hold rules, if those apply, you can keep it on default, never have to mess with this column, and leave it at that. If you are a library that either you're a branch or an item type that needs to have less or more time, you can now in your circulation rules set that new period. So this is great for maybe a bookmobile, which needs to give longer pickup times because of more limited hours. Or conversely, maybe you have a hold locker that you don't want getting filled, so you give a shorter pickup time because people have extended hours they can get things. Or maybe you really want to keep your hotspots moving to get to everybody in your community, and you only want to give them a shorter pickup time, or you want to do a same day hold on your new items. So they just have one day. Like, you can think of all sorts of things, I'm sure, where it would be really nice if there was a different default hold pickup period for this specific piece of my circulation. So that is in circulation rules. It is configurable by branch. And whether that is the item owning branch or the item circulating branch is set by your policy. But that's one that has been a long time pain point for a lot of libraries that is finally moving into circulation rules.
We have a
Going
hand.
back,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
we have a hand raised,
Yeah.
Cassandra. I'm gonna push the allow to talk button and let her ask her question. Okay, Cassandra, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay.
Oh, ask.
All right. Other things that libraries have been asking for a while in their circulation rules is comes out of our libraries that are doing automatic renewal. So again, prior behavior in Koha has been, if you have automatic renewal set, you probably had a value in that no renewal before field, because you didn't want that item to start trying to auto renew the first overnight after that's been checked out. You want Koha to try to start renewing it, maybe 2 days before it's due, maybe 1 day before it's due, maybe the day it's due. So you put a value in that field, no renewal before. The downside to that was that meant your patrons also couldn't renew something early manually from the OPAC if they knew they were going to be traveling and they wanted to make sure that that book would still renew successfully. With this update, you'll notice there is now a new column there called no automatic renewal before. So what we did with this circulation rule was say, this is flagged for automatic renewal. So we can see, yes, it's going to automatically renew. But don't try to renew that until 1 day before it's due. So no automatic renewal before 1 day before it's due. But let's leave no renewal before empty, so that if my patron wants to try to renew it early, they can. So we know this one's been another one of those things that as more libraries move to like an automatic renewal system, usually kind of coinciding with going fine free, that's been a bit of a pain point. And now libraries can carve out that granularity to that. And while we're still on circulation rules, Sarah, I'm going to do like a little tiny walk-on enhancement that I'm very happy about if you scroll all the way to the top. For any libraries that are in a multi-branch system, whether that's a consortium or multiple branches, if you've ever gone, okay, now which library's circulation rules should I be looking at to see what applied there? That is a bug that I personally filed because it makes our troubleshooting lives easier. So I don't know how many system administrators we have in here who are actually dealing with those higher level system settings, but you're welcome for this one. We are really excited for it on the education team because that takes at least 3 clicks out of the equation when we're troubleshooting circulation weirdness. Um, and then this is also a point that I'm going to build in for any questions that came up out of any of the last bit of content that we talked about.
No questions so
All
far.
right. Okay. So we'll continue.
Oh, wait, something just
Ooh,
came in.
yeah.
What was the significance of adding the no auto renewal before change?
So that was yeah. So what happened before is the only value that used to exist before was no renewal before. And that captured all of your renewals, both patron initiated and automatic. Libraries didn't want their automatic renewals to get eaten up in quick succession right after the item checked out. So they would use the no renewal before and say, don't try to renew this until the day before it was due. But the problem with that is that also said patrons couldn't try to renew that item until 1 day before it was due. It was a one size fits all, no renewals until this threshold. So now that no automatic renewal is split out from no renewal. So you can let your patrons renew early without the automatic renewal job trying to renew it too early.
Okay, so we have another question. Hopefully we answered your question, Carrie. How do we change the hold pickup date for a specific branch? We have hold lockers branch that we want shorter hold pickup.
Yeah, so your circulation, you would go to probably the circulation rule for your hold locker branch, assuming that that is the holding branch controlling that circulation. And then in that rule, you would set that default, you would change that value in the holds pickup delay column down the list.
Hey, Christy said a lot of patrons want to have all their stuff due on the same day, or they want to renew early to accommodate a vacation. So that I think refers to the renewal question.
Yeah.
Okay,
Big quality of life improvement for a lot of libraries there.
absolutely. Okay, are there any other questions before we move on? All right.
Right. So we're going to continue in the vein of quality of life improvements that are going to make librarians happy. And this first chunk of it has to do with claims returns. So right now, if you check in a lost item, you will get a prompt that says, hey, this was claims returned. Do you want to resolve it? Now we have 2 new options to automate that process. So right now with these system preferences blank, this is the behavior as it exists in Koha prior to 2405. You check it in and you are prompted to take action on that return claim. With these 2 new preferences, auto claims return I'm not even going to try to read it out loud. What do you want to do with the claims return when you check it in? In this case, let's say we're going to say returned by patron as my resolution claim, because this is the quiet slinking, put it in the book drop after hours because they're embarrassed about the fuss they made at the desk, right? This is the common scenario there. But what happens if something was out on the shelf that was still claims returned on an account and we don't discover it until we check out? Now we have that other value to automatically resolve it in that scenario. So we'll say found in library for that situation.
I think we need to introduce a third system preference only so that we can have an option for the fairies took it.
So now we can do a check-in of an item that was claims returned. And we'll see that automatic resolution. And we have this information. It was the previously claimed returned item has been found, automatically resolving the associated claim. So we can, I did not grab the previous checkout on that. I apologize, Sarah. We can go to the Chunky Knits and see the checkout history. And now we can see that it's been resolved and it was returned by patron. So if a library still wants to make staff interact and choose the reason and choose the resolution, you can leave these preferences off and that legacy behavior continues. If you want to save a few clicks and you are finding that it may eliminate staff error to just have Koha automatically resolve that for you at check-in, go ahead and turn it on. If you wanted to see the inverse, the claims return item that is being checked out to another patron, we're going to check something out to Bilbo Baggins that has been marked as a claims return. We have a note that says that it was claimed. It has now been found and automatically resolved. And we have all sorts of stuff on Bilbo's account, so we're just going to dismiss that box. But that claims return has been resolved. And then oh yeah, sorry, it was on Arthur Dent's account. You could tell we get real nerdy about our fake patrons in our test site. All right. And on another note of system preferences that librarians have been clamoring for a long time that are going to make your quality of life so much better. How many of you have taken a payment on a lost item and reasonably expected that there is a lost status called lost and paid for? Shouldn't it automatically be turned into that status? Now it can. This is, again, if you don't want that to be automatic, leave these system preferences blank and life will continue as usual. If you want to save yourself a few steps or reduce that margin for staff error and forgetting to finish that last thing before the next patron comes up to the desk asking for help, go ahead and enable these. There is one status for what to do with accepting a payment, and there is another status for what to do when the outstanding balance has been written off. So we're going to say lost and paid for and waived as our respective statuses. And we're going to go back to Bilbo's account. We'll show you just one of these because we don't have to belabor the point, but it is very nice. So coin toss, we can pay or write off. I think pay, because that's the one that people have been historically the most like, why doesn't it work this way? We'll take a cash payment. Go ahead and confirm that. So that's been paid. And let's take a look at our item. Are you ready for it? Look at that, lost and paid for. beautiful, beautiful, long time coming. I know a lot of libraries are thrilled at this development.
We got
And,
lots of yays and amazings and whatnot in the chat for that.
yeah. Yeah. That has always been a pain point when I'm training a library. Like, oh, so it turns to lost and paid for, right? Well, it didn't. Now it does. It just works the way it should have. It will not be retroactive. So it's not going to apply to any other prior ones. You would still have to, maybe you might create a report if you're worried that there are some paid for lost items that didn't get put in that status. But otherwise, Koha doesn't know how to look backwards to that. All right. And we'll end on patrons, because at the end of the day, that's what this library thing is about serving your patrons. And there are some quality of life improvements to the searchability of patron attributes. So that's always been a thing that's like, we want to collect this data, but searching it's always been a little bit weird. Now we have an ability to determine how we search it. So in the past, the searchable attributes were included in the standard search. So you could search for, if you had an attribute for an old card number and you had it searchable, you could just do a standard patron search and look for that. But maybe you don't want that cluttering that up. You can opt in or out to have it searched by default in that standard patron search. So that's a new quality of life. Maybe you want to be able to look up a patron by default. If they give you an expired card number that you've stashed in an attribute, you might want to make that search by default so that you can find them easily. And then the second one, and this is like even better, you can search a specific patron attribute that way. Can we just like pause and see how cool that is, that instead of just putting your search in the box and trusting that the search will catch it and look in the right place and not find other numbers that are really close to that, you can do a specific attribute search. So if we do a school search, we can look for a particular attribute there. So we're going to search for patrons that have the school information of Lauraville. Laura being one of our amazing support leads whom you've probably seen on a ticket or two. And these are all these patrons. So you can think about how you might pair this with some of the other recent enhancements in Koha. So maybe you're collecting residency related information in an attribute and you're going to create a new patron category. Now you can pull them up from the patron search and then batch modify them from that search, where previously you could really only do that from report.
Tony asked, so we might be able to search for a patron by, say, address or email.
And that is existing behavior. So that has been there. The new piece is specifically the attributes coming into that drop-down menu.
I think the confusion in that might be the difference between searching and searching by default in that standard search. So the default is whether or not on the specific attribute, whether you want that attribute included in the default search. And right now, there's not a way to indicate additional fields to include in that.
But it sounds like some folks are getting like a new appreciation for the patron search too, and seeing new ways that they can use that to help their patrons. So we'll call that a bonus win today. For this next enhancement, Sarah, can you go to that last patron drop down? We don't actually have this on our agenda, but some of you may have noticed you have the option to search more last patrons in this last update. Let's go to Bilbo Baggins's account because it's just a mess and what's one more fine. This one is relating to accounting. And for those libraries who create items with a manual invoice, for those who have been a little bit worried about doing the mental math of charging for additional items and making sure they did the math right, we now have the option to add a quantity box in that, a quantity field in that manual invoice screen. So it will do that math for you. We have copies at 10 cents a page. We have 6 pages, and we are making, Koha is doing the math and saying that should be 60 cents. So once again, reducing that margin for calculation error by letting the machine do some of the thinking for you. And now we have that quantity on that invoicing form. And one last piece of improved helping our patrons or seeing information about our patrons. This is one of my favorite patrons. This is Scamp. He's the orange tail some of you have ever seen if you've been in a webinar with me. We can see, let's go ahead and put a restriction on Scamp's account. We'll just put a manual restriction. He's scratched up the meeting room a few times and can't use them for 3 months until he improves his behavior. Yeah, let's add that restriction. So historically, if someone has put a restriction on the account, you knew that there was a restriction. You didn't necessarily know when it was placed or who placed it. But now if we go over to the modification log, we can see a record of Scamp's infractions and restrictions and who did it, so that we have that paper trail of accountability, so that if you have a question about why did that restriction get applied, you can go back and talk to the staff member who did it. So that's been one thing that that libraries have been asking for a while, is better logging of things like restrictions. And then, yeah.
We had a
Yeah.
question. Kimberly asked, how do we get more to show in the last patron drop down? We still only see 2.
Yeah.
That's a system preference. Katrina posted that. It's show last patron and show last patron count.
So you can do up to 10. So if you're a really busy circ desk, you may want that full 10. Yeah. So it's a tiny little thing that is, again, just one of those great little enhancements that makes life a little bit easier. All right. And then I will, okay, and we have a question about it. Is it deleted after 180 days as the other log information? So yes, it is recorded in your action logs. So it is going to be determined by the same cleanup database parameters that are cleaning up your action logs. So if yours is 180 days, it'll be limited to the last 180 days. Any other follow-up questions? And I apologize, Sarah, for throwing a walk-on enhancement at you. If we don't have other questions, we were allocating some time today to talk about some of the bugs that came out during upgrades time, and just kind of a status update on getting fixes into our partner sites. And we didn't actually script who was going to talk about that.
Oh, I can talk about it.
All right.
That's fair.
All
We
the bugs. I wore green for a reason, you know?
we
I
can
hoped you would say
with
that.
just one bad joke, and that's all you have to say.
I can kill a theme and I can go with, yeah, and it's mostly killing a theme, if anything else. So many of you, I would say over half of you, already have these bug fixes on your site. So those of you that are in PS update groups 1, 2, or 3, you've already got these bug fixes on your site. And we know some of these were really painful because, trust us, we saw the onslaught of tickets. So we know they were painful, and our developers worked amazingly quick behind the scenes to get them QA'd and approved and in our package so that they are going to be applied on your sites. If you're not seeing them yet, you're going to see them in the next couple of days. They are in the point upgrades that will be on your sites this week. So the first is 37290. Deleting a circulation rule for a specific library deletes all libraries instead. The description is not very good. What it means is you put in you try to delete a circulation rule, and it just takes you back to the all libraries page. Rebecca is asking 240506. I think it's actually 04. I think it's 0.04, but it's -06, or it's 0.06. Can someone verify for me what the... While they look, I'm going to give you the next bug that's fixed in this release. 38126. So a lot of our big consortial partners who are using the transport cost matrix and local holds priority, the holds queue was giving holds twice. So it's showing up on 2 different holds queues at the same time. That bug is fixed, so it will only show up on one library's holds queue at a time again. This one was really painful for those of you in Florida this last month. The batch extend due dates tool was not working. So 37483, that is fixed in this next release as well. So you'll have your functionality to batch extend your due dates using that tool. 38156, auto renew cron job mangles the digest notices when parallel processing is enabled. That's notice stuff that went wonky when we did stuff. So notices should calm down. So thanks for your patience. 38094. Oh, and 38076. This was causing all sorts of problems for fast cataloging. Those of you that have centralized cataloging and you had permissions for your branches that they could, or your frontline cataloging staff could only do fast add cataloging. It was preventing them being able to edit those records. It was preventing them deleting those records. It just caused a whole bunch of problems. So both of those are fixed. Your fast cataloging practices should be able to be back to normal, and all should be good once you get this point upgrade. 37947. So 37947, importing from Z3950 doesn't open the record in the editor. So Esther, I'm going to ask you to mute because I know that you saw this one and the behavior of it. Can you tell us what this was doing?
Yeah, so you would go to try to import a record from the Z3950 import, and if you opened it in the basic editor, it would be blank. So it was like it didn't bring it in. And so this bug fixes that.
That's an ugly one.
And that was particularly weird because it would do it sometimes and then other times not. And it would make people think that they were imagining things. And they were like, I don't know if this is an issue, but it did it a couple times, I swear.
And then this last one we've got on our bug fix list that you might be aware of is 37375. So a lot of you submitted tickets where you were getting, you would go to a bibliographic record and the holdings table would not load. You just got that processing thing across your screen and it would never load. It just said processing. It was an issue with the frameworks, and we were having to update MARC frameworks to make sure that they were linked to authorized values and that they were We had to go through all frameworks to make sure all of those key fields were indicated in your 952 fields. That is also fixed, so that if you're missing some of those subfields, it no longer throws those processing errors. So those things are resolved. Heather is showing in the chat a bug that she filed based on the OCLC gateway import bug that also came along. And so that's the summary of what you're going to see this week if you haven't seen it already. Some of those annoying things, like I think there's a funny developer meme that for every bug you fix, you have to file 2 more, something along those lines. Whew, our developers worked really hard though. Oh, I knew that was going to come up. Willow, I love you. And we were, so on our education team, we have this concept that who has seen Encanto, right? So yeah, we don't talk about Bruno. So when we say Bruno, it means we're not going to talk about it. And we were really hoping, Willow, that we would just Bruno the guarantee guarantor thing. Yeah, Tammy, I know the guarantee guarantor issue is not yet resolved. It is a larger fix in the community. And so because it's a larger patch of code causing havoc, it's going to take another point release to be able to get that fix QA'd and into our package. So keep your fingers crossed, keep an eye on those bugs in the community. If you have anyone at your libraries who is tech savvy and might be able to go in and help contribute or push those along. So Kristen's asking, what happened with the guarantee guarantor? Well, Kristen, here's the tea. The tea is we had a bug in guarantee and guarantors, and it created this endless loop where guarantees cannot be guarantors, and it broke a whole bunch of things in Koha. It actually caused us to halt our upgrades. Brian, our head of support, sent out a message to all of our partners and on the Slack about the workaround for it until that bug is fixed. You essentially have to turn off creating new guarantee guarantor relationships. It will preserve any that existed before the bug. And there are step-by-step instructions. If you need those instructions, go ahead and submit a ticket, and we have those on hand to tell you what the workaround is in the meantime. But yeah, it was a big old mess, Tammy, is the answer. And it's continuing to be a mess, especially for those libraries that are relying on creating those guarantee guarantor linkages. So do we have to wait for a fix in the next upgrade? What is a point fix? Great question, Tammy. So glad you asked. So what a point upgrade is, those are the silent upgrades that we do in the background every month. Usually the 3rd week of the month, you are assigned to an upgrades group, and we call those our point upgrades. So those are things, those are not going to introduce any new enhancements. Those are going to be all bug fixes. So we do those without telling you, you just know we're going to apply those bug fixes on your sites the 3rd week of the month, and those will happen overnight when you're closed. The major releases like 2405, like 2411, that will be the next one that's coming up. That's where we introduce new system preferences, new enhancements, new behavior, but those are reserved for the major releases. So these point upgrades that we do behind the scenes on your site without giving you any kind of notification, those are the ones that are only fixing bugs. And that's why we do them monthly, so that we get those bug fixes on our partner sites as soon as possible. And you don't have to wait 6 months until we do a full point release, a full release upgrade.
Willow asked a question. She's curious about the bug regarding bulk closing invoices.
It is not resolved yet. I know.
Yeah. The next one is from Raina. Could you clarify the bug number for the holds queue showing holds twice, and which point release this will be in?
That bug is 38126. Heather, can you pop that in the chat for us? Just did. Okay. And that is going to be fixed this week. So that bug is in our package. So if you haven't been upgraded yet, you will see that once you're upgraded later this week.
Any update on bug 37334 sorting by item status?
Rebecca, you need to CC yourself on that bug because there are updates on it every day. I know our developers are really wanting to get that status one fixed. So yes, they are furiously working on it. I expect it should be resolved by the next one.
Bob mentioned that their library was accidentally excluded from the 2405 upgrades and they haven't heard anything yet, so we'll make a note on that.
If you can you don't have to do it in the main chat, but can you pop us that, just to like hosts and panelists, send us that bug number or that ticket number and we'll follow up on that when we get off here. What else do we have in the chat? Esther, I'm relying on you right now because I can't keep up.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's everything that I can see.
Okay. Yes, Bruno, we're not going to talk about it, Willow.
Oh, let's see. There was a Q&A question. Almost every ticket I submitted post 2405 upgrade were replied to with known issue. If there are so many known issues in the ticket queue, is it possible to have that information communicated to the community in advance, tandem, so that we can stop spending so much time submitting tickets that are already being addressed?
Rebecca, I think that's a great idea. Maybe what we could do is in the partner Slack, I know there's a channel in the partner Slack for early adopters. But it might be a nice repurposing of that Slack channel to post bugs as we find them. I know that the early adopters were really good about that. I saw a lot of chatter, like at the end of the day, once they were found a lot of bugs. And they would then post, hey, this is what I found. This is the bug number, so that they were aware that it had been found and filed. That might be a way to keep track of those. I will let the support team know that that's a suggestion for just having greater transparency around known issues. We try to not bombard you with information on the partners thread and sending out emails. So we don't want to send out emails about every bug that we find in a new release, because I think that would get overwhelming. The guarantee guarantor one was really impactful in a lot of ways because it was causing all sorts of weirdness with checking in, blocking check-ins, checkouts, all that sort of thing. So that's why we sent it out for that particular bug. But for the other ones, I think, I don't know, what does everybody else think? I think the Slack channel might be a nice way to, if we have just a channel in the partner Slack of like known issues with the upgrades or something of that nature, might be a way to do that. Thanks for bringing that up, Rebecca. That's a good idea.
Christine asks, should we send in a ticket for an invite to the Koha Slack?
Yes, absolutely. If you're not on our partner Slack, our Bywater partner Slack, send in a ticket and we can get you connected. Absolutely.
Maribel asked, when adding a fast add item does not get checked out automatically, will that be corrected soon? And I guess it was talked about in the Circ Sig yesterday.
I don't know. Is it approved? Is it?
I'm double checking. I believe it's like 2405, one of the like 06 dash, one of the upcoming. I believe it's very close. But I'm
So very close, probably by next month's upgrades. Probably too late for this month, but probably by next month, it sounds like.
What about the incident status page? I'm guessing that's a place to post known issues. Is that what you're suggesting, Christy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what she's suggesting. Yep. And Willow is also suggesting an idea to devote Monday minutes on known bugs after an upgrade. I think, Willow, that's a great idea. That gets a lot more people are reading the Monday minutes than are on Slack, or watching the Monday minutes than are on Slack. So we will send that on to, I know Elise is on here, so I'm sure she's taking notes to share that with Jesse and Nick. But that's a great idea for a post upgrades Monday minutes. Great idea.
I think we're caught up here. I don't know if there's any other outstanding questions.
All the bugs. All the bugs. We're going to squish him, catch him with a fly swatter. I have an electric fly swatter. That thing's amazing. All right, y'all. Well, it was great to see everybody, to see your comments. We're really excited about this release. Thank you for your patience. I know the first go around was rough going, so thanks for bearing with us. We are so excited for the next release to be a little more calm. And you will be seeing more from us in December, I think, in December and January. We will be trying to, we're going to be providing our partners with a testing plan for upgrades. So those of you with test servers or interested in test servers, we're going to be doing a more thorough testing plan for you to work through all of the issues and hopefully find those for us before we go live with all of our partners. So if you were not an early adopter this time around, reach out and let us know if that's something you might be interested in with a more thorough testing plan to help us get some of these bugs out of the community more quickly. All right. So good to see everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.